Awesome. All right. Aftershocks, Tremors, Matt and Chris, we're back with you guys for another episode. This is a discussion episode again. We love talking all things music industry and doing these episodes and enjoying hearing different perspectives from players themselves who know a thing about, a thing or two about the modern day business. And tonight, we're joined by a couple of guests who know a thing or two about how insane this business really is. First up, we got fellow CMS Network compadre, who also fronts technical death metal heavyweights Madrost. And of course, he's the host of his own show on the network, Poppets Corner. Mr. Tanner Poppets with us. What's up, Tanner?
Gentlemen, how are we doing? Thanks for having me.
Sure, man. Thanks for coming on, man. And our very special guest tonight's a friendly face, a name you've seen and heard before on Aftershocks TV and Poppets Corner. And he's also the lead guitarist for one of our favorite bands on the network from the almighty Void Vader. We've got Mr. Eric Kluber with us. Eric, what's up, bro? Thanks for coming on, man. How are you?
Hey, Matt. Doing great.
All right. Awesome, guys. And, of course, Chris, as everyone knows, is right there on the top right. What's up, Chris?
Hi.
All right, guys. Well, shit, guys. I mean, once again, there's some major news in the world of independent music, which, in my opinion, is not really a good news. I guess it's easy to be pessimistic because of what we've seen over the last couple of decades in regards to independent music and how it pretty much continues to get squeezed for everything it has by the big tech bastards. But this, to me, is just another major red flag, man. I mean, Bandcamp, which is pretty much, I think, the one entity that really has supported independent artists more than anyone over the last decade, in my opinion. Recently, they were bought out by Epic Games. And Epic Games, if people don't know who they are, that's their flagship product is the super popular video game Fortnite. So once again, here comes big tech sinking its teeth into one remaining bastion of hope for independent music. And so we're going to, in this episode, we're going to talk a bit about this, big tech conglomerate taking over the most respected music platform for independent artists. But just to preface a second here, I mean, we all know, obviously, music's always been integrated into other industries and their business models. Obviously, sports is just one example. And obviously, now more than ever it's ingrained into these models. But essentially, that word independent, when it comes to music, I think is becoming anything but that. It's essentially basically a word now to sort of lure in potential customers to kind of consume other products that simply are not independent. Epic Games, they've said that Bandcamp's going to be allowed to operate the way it always has. But, I mean, does anyone really believe that a modern-day tech company is going to allow it to happen? I don't give a shit what they're saying. You know what I mean? So now, Eric and Tanner, I mean, Bandcamp, I know it's a major platform for both of you guys and your bands, so I want to get your guys' hypothesis on this. Eric, we'll start with you and Voidvid. I mean, you guys, to me, are one of the best, newer bands out there in terms of, how you connect with your fans. You're obviously very engaged in your fan base. You guys are cool, really down-to-earth, humble guys, and you just really know how to connect to your audience that a lot of other bands don't know how to do. And Bandcamp, obviously, is where you guys, direct usually your fans to go when you've got new products and merch available. So for you, Eric, I mean, let's get your take on Bandcamp being bought out by Epic Games. I mean, how concerned is Void Vader as a band, being that, it is such a essential part of the band's, model and success to have Bandcamp that now we don't know what's going to happen. I mean, not for nothing, but every time usually these big tech companies get their hands on these, other businesses, they pretty much chew them out and spit them out and they're done. So what's your take on all this?
Well, Bandcamp runs a lot still as a platform for someone to have trust in to buy someone's music. And a lot of the work is still done by the bands. Like the bands get the order. It's not fulfilled by Bandcamp themselves. Mm-hmm. I hope I don't ruin your opinion of me, but I'm not too concerned about it.
Okay.
I think that there's a potential with Epic having a huge budget that maybe they can somehow expand the platform or try some new things, where if Bandcamp is purely indie and just running with a small budget, then they're not going to be taking very many risks. What could they really do to fuck it up? I guess maybe just charging more of a percentage could be a potential issue for bands. That's just like our bottom line. I use eBay a lot, and they take a good chunk. They take more than Bandcamp does, but that is a big corporate thing. Which I have a lot of friends who use that and make a living off of it. I think that there is a potential for this Epic Games being a gaming company. Now, Fortnite doesn't sound very metal. I wish they ran Destiny or Call of Duty or something like that. But there's a potential that maybe this could be some sort of bridge for some independent bands to get noticed, have some sort of break. Sometimes these companies just try things out, and if they don't do well, so like they might have a budget for a program, and then they try it out and it doesn't work. They're willing to try those risks to see if one of these ideas do make them money. So I'm not too concerned about it.
Okay, fair enough. Now, Tanner, Madras, you guys obviously you're more of a local band. So for you guys, I mean, you guys obviously tour as well, but maybe not as extensively as Eric and Void Vader. So for you, I think though, it's probably even more of a concern because you obviously don't have the option to go out and sell merch and generate revenue when you're not touring as much. So really, the main way I know you get a return on your investment and through selling your vinyl records is through Bandcamp. So what's your thoughts on it being bought out by Epic Games for Madras situation? Is it similar to what Eric's saying?
Well, in all honesty, you have to kind of bring me up to speed as far as this goes, just because I don't know the whole situation as to why they were bought out in the first place.
Sure.
Is it because did Bandcamp lose a bunch of money because of how it helped the bands out? Do we know any of this? I don't know that aspect. So I can't really judge it too much just off that. But how Dross really flourishes to me is through the label, has having the nolifetometalrecords.com thing. I know it's like, self, promotion right there. But in all honesty, I think having an outside hub to even Bandcamp is really important. So I haven't really relied on Bandcamp like a lot of us bands have. It's cool that people support that, but I send more people to the label. So the label really sells more of our stuff. And then in turn, I get more stuff out of it. So, and then, obviously how we reach our fans. Yeah, there's some heads that buy through Bandcamp. There's some heads that buy through Amazon and eBay, like Eric said as well. But, it's almost like I almost look at it as like what WWE is, I guess now, is like buying up all these small independent corporations. I always equivalent the wrestling industry to what the music industry can kind of learn from, is like obviously, giving more of a platform to independent artists, and Bandcamp certainly has done that. But as far as I'm not really concerned as much as you would think. I just don't see the ramifications of this buyout. So maybe again, guys can inform me, because I'm claiming ignorance on this case. So.
Well, it seems fairly simple to me. They bought it because there's a ton of fucking people going to it. It's that simple. It's gaming company wants more eyes that they can reach. And what they will do, I'm not even going to speculate. I'm going to say as a fact, even though I have exactly zero knowledge of it, but what they're going to do is use Bandcamp to pimp their product. That is what they're going to do. And fair enough. I mean, it's their product now. They can do that. I am curious from the band perspective, at this point, 2022, why Bandcamp is important. What is it? Is it just because it's a hub that so many people go to? I mean, I don't like either one of your bands as an example. I don't personally understand in this day and age, other than the fact that there's a lot of eyes on it, why you wouldn't just put up a Shopify store, sell MP3s, sell physical copies, and do it yourself. Is it solely the exposure that you would get because there's 10,000 bands that are on it, or is it just fear of the technology, or what is it that stops you guys from doing it? I'll let Eric, why don't you go ahead?
Okay. It is exactly that. It's an established platform that everyone trusts, and so it has a positive buzz about it. So music fans like to go there. They do have their own collections. It has its own culture. And now you brought up Shopify, and we're moving towards Shopify because, quite honestly, we're finding just the DIY process of we don't have enough time to mail orders and keep on track of it, do the inventory. We want it to be a lot more self-automated. And if that cost us more, we'd be on the bottom line, we'd be willing to do that because we don't have the time to fulfill these things and pay attention to it as much as we'd like. But to answer your question once again, it's because of the established brand that is Bandcamp that people enjoy and trust and they go to.
See, I think it's a lot like Spotify. It's a lot like why bands put themselves on Spotify, is to try and be discovered by new people. And I think Bandcamp, to go off of Eric's point, people trust it, so people are going to go on there and try and discover new type of bands, right? So I'm assuming we've had a lot more, and I can probably speak for Eric on this, is both of us have probably had a lot more new fans discover us through Bandcamp. And so that's probably the primary reason to be on it, is to at least show our presence on this particular platform, just like a Spotify, even though everybody bitches at it and whatnot. And I've been vocal on it as well. But in the end, it's a hub that you can potentially get discovered on, and it doesn't really cost us anything to be on it. To be honest with you, I mean, you could put up your MP3s, and I think you can give people the option of listening to it 3 times before they have to buy something or whatever. But to me, I'm primarily using it as like promotion.
Okay, all right.
Go ahead, Matt. Go ahead.
No, well, I was going to say I'll throw some facts out there about Bandcamp. I mean, for one, Bandcamp, it pays 90% of music revenues to artists. If what I've researched is correct, and obviously that's a major difference from any streaming platform, Spotify, whatever. And no other platform close to paying what Bandcamp does to artists. It also helps artists take advantage, really, of the vinyl album revival. Let's be honest. I don't know if you guys can probably talk about how you guys sell in terms of vinyl, but that's still growing. Vinyl's still growing. It's continued to be the biggest selling format. I mean, even though CDs have grown this year for the first time in a while. So, I mean, the hit financially, I think, can't be understated if the ship gets steered in a different direction under Epic Games. And also, Bandcamp provides album info, graphics, links to other sites. That's stuff you're not going to get on Spotify. And that's something I know, Chris, that you talked about. I know one of our other discussion episodes in regards to why the overall musical experience has been devalued, because the streaming platforms, they just don't provide the experience for music listeners. Yeah. And then overall, I mean, Bandcamp to me appears it actually gives a shit about musicians. And more importantly, I think it empowers the musician. What other platform or entity out there actually empowers musicians to sort of take control of their, model their business? I can't think of any.
Not now. Yeah.
Yeah, not now. Exactly. Yeah.
Well, one thing about it, they spent a lot of time and effort making a functional platform, and that's why it rose to the top. And so I'd say they're number one for DIY bands, and not just DIY bands. I feel like a lot of signed bands also have a Bandcamp platform. So they did some great work. And it looks like perhaps they're at the stage where they're willing to pass the baton to the next level. And that's the big money level. I mean, they built a brand that's like sought after and recognized.
Sure. I'm wondering why they sold it out so quick. Because if they're building
for a while, how many years are you supposed to be around?
Well, I don't know. True. I mean, maybe they just didn't want the control of it anymore. So maybe that's part of selling it to somebody bigger as well.
Well, dude, it might go the other way too. The offer might have come in bigger than they ever expected to get, and they might have taken it before the music business had a chance to take a further shit. And, and go from, I don't know what it sold for, but let's say 100 million to 50 million. Sure. They may have been like, holy shit, this thing that we built for fun is really going to retire us and our kids.
Yeah. Remember the .coms that didn't, they just had a name and they sold them for millions of dollars back in the 90s just by having a generic name .com.
Yeah. How about MySpace? MySpace, what MySpace had every single one of us had a MySpace page. Oh, yeah. And MySpace sold for like $2 million or something, which was crazy when you think that it had 1 billion users at one point. So you kind of have to jump in when it's hot. I did want to piggyback off what Eric was saying about Bandcamp's infrastructure. And I agree with you. I think even of the big tech, Bandcamp's infrastructure is probably the best of the bunch. Even their app alone is better than Spotify, better than YouTube Music, better than Apple or Amazon. I've used them all. Lord knows I am the king of paying people for music. But Bandcamp, and I'll be honest, I got into Bandcamp to listen to one band, which is the way I think most people get into it. I wanted to listen to what's on your shirt, Eric. I wanted to listen to the Haunt records.
Yeah.
And the only place I could hear them was Bandcamp. So I put the app on my phone, and I was like, man, this is fucking easy. It was like, wow, I can hear everything this guy's done, just a couple of clicks, and it was easy. So then I started investigating, and I found other bands that I liked. Then I found a lot of the stoner bands are on Bandcamp. So I was like, okay, I can.
All of them.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. It became a nice niche platform for me, where I didn't have to be weeding through all the bullshit to get to the stuff that I actually like. I wanted stuff that wasn't played to death, that sounded good. And I know that sounds like it's a fairly simple request, but it's not a request you can get on Spotify or Amazon or YouTube or whatever. Matt and I talk about this all the time on the show about how it doesn't matter what you listen to on one of the major tech platforms. If you just let it scroll, before long, you're hearing Over the Mountain by Ozzy or, War Pigs.
Cut for them, man. Yeah. War Pigs.
Yeah. But never do they feed me a Void Vader tune or a Madras tune. And it doesn't matter what I'm listening to. I mean, I listen to some really obscure bullshit. I'll just tell you flat out, I do. And I never, it pisses me off more than anything when I'm listening to Void Vader and then I get fed round and round. It's like, dude, stop it. That's not what I'm listening to.
Right. Not even close. The algorithm gods. Yeah. I'd love to know the true science behind that, or if there's any twinkling by human hands as well.
Dude, the true science is simple. Cash. That's the twinkling. Yeah. That's the round and round, which is familiar, people won't turn off. Rare obscure band, they will turn off, and they need to get the play to get their money.
I'll turn it right off.
Yeah, but we're the minority in the Spotify world.
Hey, one quick thing I did think of that could go wrong and has a habit of is if you get a big corporate, and I don't know that much about Epic Games, and I don't know much about Bandcamp's politics because they never pushed them that I'm aware of, maybe is if that good old cancel culture starts coming in there, and then all of a sudden the band says something wrong or is not in the right side of things, that would be really unfortunate. So I guess that would be, if you're like, what could go wrong? That would be a concern that's pretty realistic.
Exactly. Well, yeah, that's the thing. Let's take a look at some of the other large tech companies that control the music business. Google and Apple. Yeah, YouTube. Exactly. Google and Apple, right? So the main issue of concern is that they have higher priorities than music. And when you're a sister company, because that's basically what Bandcamp is now to Epic Games, is just a sister company. When you're a sister company to a parent one, you're totally disposable, since it's just an extra way for these businesses to generate revenue. I mean, like you said, what does YouTube do? They give away music for free in order to sell advertising. So music to them is completely disposable. Even Spotify now, right? They're heavily invested in podcasting. Music might not be number one for long for Spotify if they keep going and trying to keep getting all the Joe Rogans and all the podcasts. So that itself shows that there are, there's bigger priorities than that of helping music artists, achieve success. Music is used by these companies, as we all know, and as you alluded to before, Chris, to sell other products or services, right? They're not expecting to make a lot of money. I don't think Epic Games is going to sit there and think, we're going to make a shitload of money from Bandcamp, because all they're probably like doing and using it for is to using the music to sell other related products and services that'll earn them more than they would for music. So essentially, music simply for them, it's just an extra little entity or a commodity. It's not even really something I think they're going to put all their eggs into a basket and say, let's try to really blow Bandcamp up. I think it's just sort of let's buy this thing. If we can use it to sell other, products or services, let's do it, because that's what music kind of, unfortunately, has become these days. It's not, it's not there as the main, I guess, entity for, a consumer. It's just used for, it's just used to sell their products and services. So that's my concern with this. It's just because of the history of what big tech companies have traditionally done to music.
So let me branch off of this real quick, because I think there's two scenarios what's going to probably happen now with Bandcamp. It's going to do what MySpace did. Remember when it got sold to who is it? Justin Timberlake, I think, bought it or something like that.
Well, yeah, he kind of tried to rescue it. Yeah.
Yeah, but it turned to shit.
Of course,
it was already shit, real quick. real
Yeah.
quick. So that's one scenario. Or the other one is it's going to go what this fuck book thing has become in censorship and become so massive, and then it's going to probably quickly die in a flame and move on to something else like that platform is slowly becoming. So that's the only scenarios I could probably see Bandcamp going nowadays, and hopefully something sprouts up to replace that.
Oh, that's a little bit. Well, that's two negative scenarios, though. It could work out. Like,
You can have a positive in there. Yeah.
I like to think that, back in the day when Apple computers, you remember the US Festival with Motley Crue and Van Halen?
Sure.
That was just like a wild idea by one of their guys, Steve somebody, I believe. And
Wozniak, yeah.
And that was really cool. And I do like the idea, kind of playing angel's advocate, if you will, that maybe someone has a positive interest in music and feels like this is the hot platform. I can take this to a place where it can't go on its own, and we can do something here. So, hey, man, maybe.
Well, when corporate money's thrown in there, everything turns to shit. So that's what I'm saying.
Not always. Not always. There definitely are times that corporate money, a lot of times that corporate money, I don't think it's corporate money. I think it's corporate attitude. And that's really, there's a difference. I mean, you can have a lot of money and not have corporate attitude and do productive work. And, the one thing that I think is probably going to happen, and I'm guessing, I, again, have no knowledge, but I think what you're going to see is kind of what you've seen in the social media world, where you're going to find a lot of different things that are going to spring up. There's already things that are alternatives to Bandcamp that are out there. People just don't know about them because they have less money than Bandcamp. Things like Songcast. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Songcast at all, but Songcast is a company very much like Bandcamp, except they also do live radio shows too. So you can have the combination of putting your music on it as well as having your music featured by like-minded independent DJs that want to spin independent music. So, there's that kind of a platform as well. I think the big thing is the fear factor that we're looking at right now is this thing could go to shit in a hurry. It could go well. I love the idea, like Eric said at the beginning of this, about, wouldn't it be great if the next Fortnite patch or whatever they call those things now, update,
Sure.
if they just reached into 15 bands and put them in as, you've hit a bonus when you're building your wall or whatever. And because you built your wall the right way, you get, $10 worth of this band's music or something, or, something like that could be incentivized for the gaming world. You guys have played these games, you play GTA, every time you get in a car, you could turn on a radio. Well, there's something playing on it.
That was awesome.
Yeah. I mean, what's to say it couldn't be the Bandcamp music instead of, big name bands? It could be.
Yeah. I mean, the idea that tapping into the independent music that is it's not really, hasn't been used. Everyone's still using a lot of the legacy acts bands music, still in movies to this day.
Sure.
And if they could have a gateway, a funnel right into the best of the best and use it, that'd be potentially great for everybody.
Yeah, and right now too, the other really valuable kind of unprecedented thing right now is that there are bands that are out there proving that you don't need the machine anymore. Bands like Dirty Honey. We always refer to them because they're the big one that, they're a big band that is not signed. And, Matt and I talked to Mark from the band, I don't know, 6 months ago or whatever it was. And they have no intention of signing with anybody corporate because they like doing it the way they're doing it. And they're still gaining popularity. Bandcamp, it is to their absolute advantage to break a band like that. It would be to their absolute advantage to grab a Void Vader, to grab a Madras, to grab a, Haunt, and have them have a hit in a game. And all of a sudden they're out on tour on the Bandcamp tour or on the Epic Games tour. It would be nothing but promotionally good for them to have that. So there could be ways to make this thing work. You know, there also could be, okay, we're closing down the platform unless you guys pay $500 an album just to list, you know, and we've seen that happen too. I honestly think though that in the end, I don't think it's going to be quite the disaster as maybe people are thinking, just because the market itself is not going to allow them to completely fuck you guys. You know, I mean, let's just be honest.
Yeah.
I don't know what it costs to upload your band to Bandcamp. I'm assuming it doesn't.
No,
but
it's free.
okay. But I know this: if you really wanted your band on every other platform, Spotify and Google and YouTube and everything, it's $29. It's $29 to pay an aggregator. So is that really fucking you over? If Bandcamp says, well, we're going to charge this, then you just go to Spotify and you go to the bigger platform.
Yeah. Well, and Madrost and Void Vader and I think just about every other band is on all of them already.
Sure.
Right.
I'm wondering too. I want to hypothetically go off of Chris's point. Just ask this. I'm assuming they would update their terms and services and whatnot, and we would have to obviously give them the rights, quote unquote, to put us in their games and whatnot. I don't know the legalities to that, but that sounds like a cool idea.
Yeah,
Right.
but they would. They would.
They would just update their terms and services, and I'm assuming if you wanted to opt out, you just opt out.
I would bet anything they would present it like a contest. Guess what, Band A? You've been selected to be in our new thing.
Another online contest, please. Get all your fans to vote once a day.
Right.
No.
Well, I mean, I love your guys' optimism, but I am not sharing it. Okay, I mean,
I love the East Coast. The East just comes.
It's cynical, I know.
Just comes in.
It's cold history. It's cold what we've seen in the past. I mean, let's just look at how little, for instance, even Spotify and any other streaming platform, how they've invested in improving their platforms, right? Spotify hasn't, neither is Apple. I mean, the main decision makers in music today, they no longer have the same, goals and ambitions as musicians and the fans. I mean, they're not on the same page. And that's why I think losing a Bandcamp to a tech company like Epic, I think it hurts because, like I said, in the past, the ambitions of the artists and businesses and the fans were pretty much aligned with each other. In the case with Epic Games, like I was saying before, right, it's got to choose the parent company, number one. So if Epic Games, for instance, has to choose, whether it's to improve a game or the musical system they have, right? They have with Bandcamp. Which one do you think they're going to choose? All right. I mean, of course they're going to choose something to do with the video game. I think Bandcamp is. I'm not saying it's done, but to think. I mean, like I said, I like the optimism, and hopefully, hopefully, what you guys saying is right. But I mean, if you look at their history, when you merge businesses or labels, independent labels, just look at independent labels in general. How Roadrunner, at one point was the biggest, indie label. They merged with a conglomerate. Boom, they haven't been the same since. And let's look at even like a better example, RCA, right? In the 70s and 80s, RCA, all right. Dominant label back then. They decided to enter the frozen food industry, right? They went missing the consumer entertainment boom years later. They eventually dumped the food business. And not long after that, they had to merge with BMG because they basically went kaput. I mean, they screwed themselves by forgetting, I think, who they were, and their strengths got lured into another business that they had no experience in. Now, I know this is a little different because Bandcamp's getting bought out, but it's the same thing. I just don't see, because of what we've seen, just in history with these big tech companies, they just don't view music. They're not music fans like all of us are. They don't get the same, I think, feel for music that way. I mean, there might be a guy or two, or a lady or two in the company that feels strongly about music enough where they decide to buy Bandcamp. Where they haven't had this idea to take it to some whatever kind of level, but. I mean, like I said, I'm just being realistic based off history and what we've seen in the past from other big tech companies. They just don't invest money in improving the platforms, as evidenced by Spotify and Apple and the rest of them.
Well, one thing about it, Matt, is that the first I heard of this is through you, and I'd love to get some more information. It'd be nice if they came out and said some intentions, some plans. So. Really kind of working off nothing.
Well, yeah, well, obviously, and well, here's the thing: their intentions and plans. Do you think what they're going to tell you, they're really going to do anyway?
Well,
You know?
yeah. Well, at least fucking bullshit us. We're gonna make the biggest thing. I'd rather have that than nothing.
Sure.
Here, I'm gonna address this directly off what Matt just said, and here's why I think what Matt is thinking is not business-wise what Bandcamp is thinking. Matt's approaching this from a position of a 40-year-old guy. Matt is approaching this from a position of, we were raised on records, so records, God damn it, and we need loyalty to our bands, and we need records, and we need physical product and all this. Today's 15, 18, 19, 22-year-old, they don't give a shit. And Bandcamp is going to approach this from that angle. They're not, yeah, and that's what Spotify and all these other companies are doing too. They're approaching it from, nobody's buying the shit, but they're buying our streams for $10 a month. So here you go. You know, that's the approach they're taking. The scene itself has changed. We are now the dinosaurs. We are now we're the T-Rex watching the meteor coming in, and that's kind of what we're seeing, man, is that, when you look at, like, I know it was mentioned here, somebody said about vinyl. Who's buying the vinyl? Not the 20-year-olds. It's the 50-year-olds.
No, mostly, but there are a lot of 20-year-olds. And like you were saying, you're right. The kids don't give a shit anymore. But why don't they give a shit? Because there's nothing available for them. That's the point. Spotify doesn't. You said it yourself. Spotify doesn't have anything on their platform. Neither does Apple. Whatever. They don't have the liner notes. They don't have links to other things. They don't have the lyrics. They don't have all that. The artwork.
No, they don't. But dude. We literally watched the Best Buys go from half their store to half of an end cap on CDs. We watched it happen when there was product. No one was buying it. That's why they kept getting smaller and smaller. They reduced based on the audience, not to fuck the audience.
Well, yeah. A lot of it's. I just think it's the experience. If you provide ways for listeners to experience it in a different way. I mean, I think there's still going to be an experience there. Obviously, like I said, a lot of it has to do with, there's so many factors. We can talk all day about why,
sure.
But I just think that because it's not there for anyone to really experience. You know what I mean? Like I said, unless you go out, like I said, yeah, vinyl. I'm not saying the kid's just going to one day want to pick up vinyl, but the thing is that most kids haven't even experienced hearing vinyl. When they see a big record, like we all did, it might be like, whoa, this is a whole different experience than me just putting a little tune on my iPhone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Or they might think, I make $7.50 an hour. I can spend $40 on this piece of vinyl, or I can listen to it for nothing on YouTube.
See, I think we've been conditioned to think that way too. I think they have conditioned us
right here. This is the problem.
So there you go. So I think they've conditioned us on convenience rather than experience. So I'm an experience guy. That's just who I am. I'm a 30-something-year-old experience kind of guy, and I always like buying the product because, for one, they can't ever take it away from me. That's the whole thing. There are labels that won't put their stuff on certain platforms and whatnot because they own that shit, right? Eric was a perfect example of this because he was a part of something like that, right? But I had the records, so I could put it on whenever the fuck I want to put it on. So I don't know. I'm not conditioned that way. I grew up in a time when I was discovering CDs and cassettes almost from my parents who passed them down to me. So I got a lot of it from my parents.
Well, I must say that. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Finish your thought, bud.
No. And I know not a lot of people's parents do that for their kids.
That's another story. Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm definitely understanding where Matt's coming from now because I'm seeing that. Matt, correct me if I'm wrong. Bandcamp really is the one platform right now that is the most popular to push the physical media. That's kind of what I don't go there to stream. If I want to stream, I go to Spotify.
Exactly.
So if someone's going to come in there and turn it into a competitor for Spotify and completely poo-poo the idea of physical media, that would be, kind of like something taken away from the community. So that's where you're coming from?
Yeah, and listen, yeah, exactly, because there is no, and Chris obviously is right in terms of, yeah, I mean, we're not going to see obviously the same sort of, this type of sales in terms of physical products as we once did, obviously, because there was no option for streaming back then. So yeah, I'm not saying it's going to ever go back to the way it was, but I really think if you provide, like Bandcamps to me is the only place that provides that experience. Where if you really want to know about a band and learn about it, you can go there. Every time I go to Bandcamp, it's great because I can then, let's see if they got any other records. I can hear some of the older stuff. Oh, let's look at, there's all reviews from people on there. Let's see what their links are to their other sites and to their social media. I mean, it is the all. It to me is, I'm not, it's sort of like the new, how MySpace used to be. It's sort of like the modern way of what MySpace used to be. I mean, in terms even better, obviously, because you could sell all the products through it. Where at MySpace, I know it was different, but yeah, it's just not provide. I mean, you can't expect kids to get into a listening experience if it's not provided for them. It's not there for the taking, unless like in Tanner's situation, he was lucky enough to have parents to provide that, but most don't. Kids can't even on their own experience it now and discover it if there's not a Bandcamp around the way it is now. If it gets changed and it gets sort of messed with, and that's my main concern. Is there's no doubt in my mind it's going to get messed with. I don't think they're just going to sit there and let this, just continue to do what they do without messing around with it. I mean, that's just my opinion. Hope I'm wrong.
I also want to add to this too, because another thing about Bandcamp that I love is that you can connect directly with the fans, because Facebook, you have to pay for that shit, right? Bandcamp, anybody who follows you, it's like having an email list, but it's like super convenient that I don't have to solicit ourselves to get their said emails and whatnot.
Yeah.
So that's another benefit to Bandcamp that hopefully that will not change. You know what I mean? Hopefully they won't get solicited by these gaming companies, and because I'm sure they have tons of people's information.
I honestly think the biggest fear of the whole Bandcamp thing should be what was said earlier by Eric, which is the censorship thing. Because I don't know how much you guys follow the gaming world. I only do because I use Odyssey as a video platform more than I do YouTube. But from what I see on Odyssey, that's very big for the gamers. A lot of the gamers use Odyssey. So I see a lot of the news and a lot of the blogs and stuff. And I'll be damned if there aren't 5 stories a day about cancel culture in the gaming world.
Yeah.
Just constantly. This Twitch streamer was taken down for saying this or that or what. I see this all the time.
Well, PewDiePie was the biggest. I mean, he was years ago, and that was an example you're talking about.
Yeah. I mean, but it's prevalent everywhere right now in the gaming world. People that are either in games or in Marvel movies. Those are the 2 biggies right now. Is Gina Carano, got to get rid of her because God forbid she said something we don't believe in, or or Brie Larson or whatever. I see it constantly on Odyssey. That are people that are reporting on kind of the gaming world, and if Bandcamp's going to fall under that umbrella, you're going to get these same left-wing lunatics that are going to be like, oh my God, can you believe that this band is saying this? And, I could see that. I could see that happen. I don't think Bandcamp's going to change. Let's be honest. It's going to change. You don't put that kind of money in to stay the same. Whenever you invest billions of dollars, you do it with a vision. You don't do it just like, oh, that makes sense to me. Yep. I mean, it's just the way it works. What their vision is, I don't know. And I kind of agree with Matt that they're going to want to sublet it to their world. In a way, they're just buying the audience. That's really what they're buying. They don't give a shit about the bands. They give a shit about the audience. They care. They probably saw some spreadsheet that sees 10 million individual users per day that hit the website. And they're like, well, we can advertise here and there, and we could throw in an audio ad in between every 3 tracks, and we can get X number of sales and blah, blah, blah. From a business standpoint, it makes a lot of sense. I don't know that it makes enough sense, though, that bands should start saying, well, fuck, we got to run. Because
I'm not saying run. I'm just saying not put all your eggs in one basket.
Beware.
That's the whole thing. it's be cautious about it. And Chris, you're only proving my point. Thanks, buddy. I appreciate that. When it comes to the cancel culture thing, because that's a huge concern for me personally.
Sure.
And I'm wondering too if they don't agree with the content or God
Well,
forbid an album cover or the lyrics or it's it doesn't because
hey Tanner, you cannot sell a Cannibal Corpse to Germany because your account will get shut down. So there's
really? Yeah. Okay, well there's again
illegal in Germany.
Yeah, it's I mean it's definitely concerning, but I'll say this, and you guys know me, I'm the king of hating cancel culture because I'm the biggest culprit of it. Everything I say is damn near cancelable.
That's why we love you.
but
that was through eBay, by the way. I gotta clarify. That's through eBay.
Okay. But you have to diversify. In my opinion, in today's world, in a technical world, you have to be everywhere and anywhere you can be so that you can take a hit without losing. And you should be ahead of the game, not behind the game. The fact that you two musicians don't know about Songcast says that you're behind the game.
I guess so, man. Yeah.
And that's not to rip on you. That's just saying the game is constantly moving. And in today's world, you got to be as much a tech as you do a musician in order to stay successful and be allowed to be 100% creatively free.
Sure. And I think, again, not solely relying on one aspect. So now that Bandcamp got bought, now I'm going to look at this new thing. And then once that gets bought, then I'll look at the next thing. Again, it's going to keep going and going and going. So it's not all like, it's going to crash and burn at some point, each of these platforms. So when, we don't ever know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So, well, with Bandcamp looming in the dark, sorry, like I said, hopefully definitely. I mean, definitely, we've got to be optimistic, though. I agree, but I'm just gonna,
I'm waiting for lightning and thunder to start going off in Matt's room there.
I love it. Yeah, you need a green screen with just constant.
Yeah, right. No, but I mean, with that, obviously, and just moving on a bit, it's obviously now more important than ever, obviously, for fans. If something does happen to Bandcamp, it's important for fans to find a way to support, independent artists and for artists to connect with their fans if something does happen to Bandcamp. I mean, fans, definitely always have expectations, from bands that they support. But a lot of times I think we forget, that there are expectations for fans from bands and artists as well. It's a two-way street. I mean, live independent music obviously can only exist and sustain itself if both the artists and fans, they both obviously support each other. I mean, the pandemic obviously put a wrinkle into this sort of natural agreement. And I'll be honest, like I said, I've always said, I've been through this whole pandemic, been, wholeheartedly against the mandate. So I've been to one show in 2 years, and it's out of principle, but I have recently changed my stance. I'm going to start going to shows and play the game because I have to do my part as a fan to keep this going, or else, and Eric, I know we were going, a little back and forth in this, online at one time. I mean, like you were saying, venues aren't going to be in business if fans don't go support these bands. These venues are just going to shut down, and it'd be impossible to close up, especially a place like here in San Francisco, or any major city. So, like I said, and that was, a good thing because I did realize, I'm being sort of hypocritical. I've been out there stating that bands need to kind of go back to sort of back to basics, focus with their touring efforts on maybe focus on 4 or 5 geographic locations, how they used to do it back in the day, in and around their area, or within a convenient, 3 to 4 hour, span or whatever you call it, distance. Maybe play some free shows, some benefits, all that stuff to sort of enhance that local community feel. But at the same time, like I said, I've been saying that, but I've also not been doing my part over the last 2 years to support that. And so I've changed my stance. I'm going to start going to shows and play the game, because I think it is important. So Eric, let's start with you. As a tour musician, talk about what you feel fans really these days need to do in order for bands like Voivod really to continue to keep on doing what you're doing, because this is really a critical time. If something does happen to Bandcamp, and if we continue with these lockdowns or these mandates, we got to find a way to make this work. What do you think fans, in your opinion, from an artist perspective, should be doing?
Well, the music scene's been on life support for about 20 years now, as it is. So any sort of moral stance that you're taking, you're just, that maybe is good for the long run. You gotta look for the right now, the present, and you got to keep clubs open, and bands alive. So if you starve out the whole entire music scene, you're just going to kill it, and it won't be able to come back. And they have lifted a lot of the mandates. My whole thing the whole time was just faking. I mean, most of it was a lot of theater, and it's like they said they were enforcing, they weren't really. You go to the clubs, they say to wear a mask, you don't really have to. It was mostly normal, but on the outside, the perspective was this really authoritative lockdown of the event. So if you went to the show, it was still cool, as long as what really sucked is when they closed the clubs and you couldn't go to the show at all. So I think people need to keep that in perspective. Go out to the show, support your bands. I say break all the laws you can, and like fake going along with it, and like take your mask off when you don't have to. But that shit's at the moment done. That's my advice.
Okay. Tanner, what about you?
Well, see, Eric is only proving my point on why I didn't go to shows, because now I didn't even want to deal with that bullshit. Didn't even want to deal with giving my medical information to some fucknut who works at a club. My medical information is none of their business. So as far as that goes, and wearing a mask to enjoy a show, that's not really an enjoyable experience for me. So I was doing promotion. And I was promoting the scene in other ways besides going to shows, and Matt and Chris were doing the same thing by interviewing bands and getting their names out there, that way too. This is one avenue that helps bands out is by doing interviews and whatnot. So as far as touring goes, I would, obviously we'll be back out there sooner rather than later, and people just need to know that not to be scared about going out to live shows due to mandates, because that was my biggest fear. That's why I didn't go out to a lot of shows, because I didn't want to deal with that bullshit. And so I think have that in mind, that it's almost, I would say it's over. I would say the whole
for now.
Yeah, who knows what shit they'll throw at us, and see how many people listen to it, because that's a scary thought. I think it's all of our doing why we're in this predicament, especially with the music industry and whatnot, because of playing into that said fear. And I'm, I guess, partly responsible for it too, but I'm also I don't go to concerts to have an experience like that. Right. I go to get away from that shit, not to be reminded of it, which is, again, sports was the biggest almost offender of it too.
Yeah, sports were terrible. I couldn't even watch it on TV with no one in the stands. I get you there. Valid points. I will say it wasn't as bad. Like, it was still basically the same. You just had to kind of be a little bit high school about it and just like sneak around.
Sure.
Well, I mean, convenience, But be careful, because, man, these clubs are just dying left and right, and before you know it, you won't even have a fucking club in your town. And good luck opening one, by the way. I don't know how anybody ever does.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, me and Chris have talked to a lot of artists, obviously the last, at least over the last year when they started going out and touring again. And like we both heard from most of them, even from the artists themselves, they're just like, this isn't that much fun. Even though we're out there doing it, we're not really having fun. You know what I mean? And so, I mean, like you said, I think it's just one of those things. I mean, it's a tough thing to, but the bottom line is I really think that it's, and I think you're right, Eric. I mean, even if it's maybe not the same experience right now, in the long run, if we, like I said, if people don't go out and see shows, these venues are going to get shut down. And then, like you said, who's going to open new ones? I mean, it's just going to really destroy things, where live music for independent artists is going to be, I mean, you're going to have, and then once things do open up, you're going to have one or two clubs where everybody and their mothers can be fighting them. Well, I'm saying, no, it is. Well, that's open now. I mean, but like I said, I'm the eternal pessimist with this shit. So
I get it. I mean, I totally get it.
Yeah. I'm just waiting for the next lockdown. But I mean, for instance, example, I had bought tickets before the pandemic to see Sepultura. They finally, coming back around. It's the same tickets I bought, 2 years ago, and they're playing in a couple weeks. And so I'm going to go, and there it is. I was expecting, okay, you need your Vax card thing. Okay, fine. But they're still requiring masks. Why the fuck are they still requiring masks? We're still requiring masks. Now, I think that also could be a band thing. That's the other thing, too. A lot of the bands
that's so lame.
Are requiring it. It's not even so much a lot of times the venues. The bands are like, no, I want people to wear masks.
Oh my God.
I can tell you for a fact with Sepultura that it's the band because I skipped. They were just here last week. And I had a buddy that literally hit me up and said, hey, dude, I'll buy you a ticket. I owe you for I had given him tickets to another show. And he was like, dude, you want to go and fucking hang with Sepultura and Crowbar? And I was like, yeah, hell yeah. And then I looked it up online and it said that it was Vax Pass required. And I was like, well, fuck that. But then I called the venue because it's different. Here in Ohio, they've removed that, from pretty much everywhere. It's like I can go to the big arena here, which is Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse, which is the big place, without a mask. So I called the venue and I said, what's the deal? Is this just the website hasn't been updated? And they said, no, it's on a by band basis and the bands are dictating it. So I didn't go. I didn't go because the band dictated to play these games. And I'm like, nah, and I agree with you, Eric. Could I have got in? I'm in the fucking media. I'm positive I could have got in.
Yeah.
The point is, do I want to do that? Do I want to be a 10-year-old kid sneaking around mommy to get in? And I don't. Sepultura is just not that important to me.
I got it. That kills the whole buzz for me right now when you say it's actually mandated by the band. That's the most unrock and roll thing I've ever heard. So
it is. Yeah.
That's sad when that happens, and I think you made the right decision.
Can we touch upon this before we get out of here on the Bandcamp thing? Ooh. What is your speculations for Bandcamp Friday now that this whole thing is going is now doing its thing?
I think they'll still do it as long as it makes some money. It obviously encouraged people they took it away. It was supposed to be just a COVID thing. They took it away and they started it up again. So they did that purely probably out of sales, I assume.
Okay.
They'll probably keep it as long as it brings audience. Because I think that's going to be the big change that you're going to see with Bandcamp. Bandcamp is going to become less about making money, sales, and they'll still promote the shit out of that. Well, we made this much money and we gave this much to artists because that makes them look good. So they'll promote that. But as a corporate entity, as they are going to be now, they're going to be looking at how many hits, how many unique visitors, how many of those unique visitors translated into dollars spent and clicks on the new ads for the new Fortnite. It might become Fortnite Friday,
Fortnite Friday.
It might be. I mean, you don't know. I mean, why wouldn't, if I was Bandcamp, it would become Fortnite Friday. Why not promote their brand on something that's bringing millions of people to their site every day or every Friday?
And you're right. And that's why. Yeah, go ahead, Henry.
Sorry, last thing, and that'll be a new thing to Bandcamp is having ads, because Bandcamp, every time you go on an artist page, I don't really see any ads.
I don't think so. Sure.
Oh. Well, I know this. On the top, I went to Bandcamp's page while we've been talking, and right up at the top it says we've updated our terms and service. Bingo. So I clicked it to just take a little look and see, and they say this is updated as of March 17th. So what's that, a week ago, roughly?
Yep.
And they say everything that's been updated is in bold yellow text. And as you scroll through, there's a lot of big blocks of bold yellow text. And I'm like, oh boy.
Here it comes.
There's a lot of change going on.
Here comes the pain.
So they're not wasting any time. That's for damn sure.
It's nothing we're not used to. We just got to roll with it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and you hope, like you said, like as Chris was talking about, a song. You hope that they didn't. The one good, I guess, positive, if they do change, is there's going to be someone that's going to come in and try to take over that market with all the independent artists. I mean, it's not like it's just going to be nothing there anymore. So you hope that maybe someone comes in and even does an even better job than Bandcamp. That's your hope.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
And you guys just need to be, you guys, not just you two, but bands that are on Bandcamp in general, need to look at these terms of service to make sure that you're not saying, well, you're giving up rights to performance rights or mechanicals or whatever for the next 10 years because you listed on Bandcamp.
Mhm.
you know, which I know they've never done in the past. But again, as they change terms,
I guess. Oh my God, I'm straight out of the South Park episode. I'm not going to read one of those updates. I'm just going to hit I accept.
And
We'll see what happens.
another point I want to bring up too is Bandcamp has these live stream events too. So I'm
Right.
wondering how that will change as well. You know,
right.
with when it comes to the new terms and services. Maybe you'll see us bands performing on a live stream and I don't know, in a fucking video game or something on a TV
Maybe.
in your
Oh, that'd
fucking
be cool,
Fortnite
maybe.
house.
maybe. But again, I go back to the original point. Even if they try to monetize all this stuff, there are other platforms for that stuff. Live streaming you could do anymore with two cameras, a laptop, and YouTube. You know, if you wanted to, or Rumble or Odyssey or whatever, or you could use Stage It, which I don't know how many people are aware of, but Stage It is good for doing at-home live streams. I mean, there are avenues. Again, it goes back to what we were saying before. To me, every band should be on every platform they can possibly think of and find, so that no one entity has enough power to really hurt you. You know, one goes down, the next one pops up. It's like just, you know, it's whack-a-mole. That's really how you have to. It's digital whack-a-mole these days.
Mm-hmm. And that's what everyone does, you know. So when anybody singles one guy out or one platform out as the bad guy for streaming, like say Spotify doesn't pay right, but it's like you're just looking at Spotify. It's all of these, they all combine.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And I think there needs to be more music on Rumble and Odyssey. So I'm going to throw that out there to you bands. Start uploading your shit on those platforms and stop, giving me the excuse of only going on YouTube because it's only on YouTube.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I definitely agree with that. We're like especially with Rumble, because Rumble's the biggest one. Rumble, I like Rumble personally, and their app works fantastic, and their app on TVs works fantastic. And if I want to listen to political nonsense all day, then Rumble is fucking fantastic. But I don't. I want to, I want to see other shit.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, I use BitChute probably the most, because there's a bunch of guys that have bootleg uploaded 10 million concerts and 10 million TV shows and videos to everything. And, I go out to BitChute and I watch this stuff there, because I don't want to support YouTube ever. I fucking hate YouTube. They are the goddamn devil. Absolutely. And I say that as a paying customer to YouTube Music. So, I'm as big a hypocrite as anybody possible, because I pay them. But, go ahead.
It's a good service, and
it is.
That's why you pay them, because they did establish that platform. It's like you can bitch about their policies all day, but at the end of the day, they do have the content that you want to watch. So it'd be nice to see some of these other alternative channels also get up their content as well, not just with political rants.
And Chris, I got to ask you this: just being a guy that is so ingrained in alternate platforms such as Rumble and whatnot, now that it's on the stock market, how much has that changed? Even just Rumble and whatnot, because everybody was freaking out over that whole thing too.
Oh no, like they sold out.
Yeah,
they
went public.
The only change that I've seen, I mean, day-to-day uploading, and you guys know what I talk about on the CMS. Clearly some heinous bullshit that would get me. I mean, literally every single week I look at where I'm going to upload even clips, and I'm like, okay, I can upload 2 of my 5 clips, because all the rest are against the TOS for YouTube. So I don't upload to YouTube. A lot of times I upload on the YouTube community post. I'm like, this one's too hot for YouTube, but you can get it over here at Rumble. And I just post a Rumble link over to the other thing. So I follow along with it. Rumble's only change was when Trump signed up for it somehow, or integrated it with Truth Social, which is a goddamn disaster all by itself. But when Trump brought in using Rumble, they changed something about what you can say about Israel and Jews and whatever. And it's like, okay. To me, that isn't personally a big upset anyway, because I'm not the guy that's sitting there going, them goddamn Jews are stealing my money. I'm not that guy. So I don't care,
Yeah.
But again, my whole attitude toward the platforms is don't pick one. Don't put the biggest mistake that I did is I've got 5,500 videos on YouTube, and it's like holy shit, now I could be canceled at any fucking minute. I got to get these things over to BitChute, to Rumble, to Odyssey, and I every single week I pull 5 to 10 old videos over every week. It's just a pain in my ass that I got to dedicate an hour to do it. But like I said, I'm not going to get shut down. If when YouTube pulls the plug on me, and it will happen, when YouTube pulls the plug on me, it is not going to be a gaping wound. It's going to be let me get a Band-Aid, because I have, now I have like 3,000 videos on BitChute, and I have 1,000 videos on Rumble, and I have, I think, 1,000 videos on Odyssey, and I have another 1,500 on Minds. Do I spend too much time on this shit? Absolutely. But I do it so that no one can ever truly take me down.
Sure.
Yeah,
just one at a time. That goes back to Tanner saying they can erase everything with a click of a button.
Yeah.
Erase. You're gone. Everything you worked on for your whole life, for your whole life's work.
Yeah. I mean, it's a lesson that I personally thankfully learned. I kind of saw it coming before it started coming. When they first started tackling the big players, I was like, they are going to come for us. We say too much heinous shit. And I was like, I'm going to start moving things now. And people, dude, anybody's listened to the CMS for a while knows I took the beating of my life for 3 years. For 3 years, I had fans that were just emailing and calling and messaging constantly of, you're just so full of shit. The CMS isn't that big of a player, and blah, 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 blah. And you're never going to be on target until it started. And then I started getting, well, this has been flagged. Well, this has been pulled. Well, this has been deleted. Then they started giving me flags for things that I had already deleted. I get messages for, we've been unmonetized for a while, but I'm not even talking about monetized. I'm talking about, we would do a live show. I would immediately delete it as soon as we were done with the live broadcast. And then 2 days later, I get an email that says, you've been flagged for hate speech because of this segment. And I'm like, it's not even on your platform. It's not there. And they were like, well, you can't appeal it because you already deleted it.
Sure, yeah. I swear a salty cracker gets deleted
all the time, yeah.
Every 2 weeks or so. Yeah.
Well, and he's another one. He's gone to all the different platforms now. Same as Razor Fist. Same as a bunch of us that are.
Same as all our guys.
Yeah. Well, the guys that have.
The guys that are awesome or fun.
Well, the guys that built their careers on the old school way of doing comedy.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really what it is they don't like 90s style comedy. They want everything to be like, hey, the sun's not as hot as it used to be. Let's tell a joke about global warming.
Yeah, exactly. That's ridiculous. But all right, guys. Well, I guess we could get ready to wrap this up. So, Eric, Void Vader, what's going on? Fill us in. Any happens? I know you guys. I did see you guys are playing that Monster Ripple Fest. That was amazing. But go ahead, just fill us in what's going on with Void Vader.
Okay, right now we're writing new songs, so that's fun for me anyway.
Sure.
We're gonna go on tour with Planet of Zeus and Druids in late May. It's mostly West Coast, but we kind of get to some new places like Idaho and Salt Lake City, and it ends in Denver. Looking forward to that. What Matt was referring to is the not Monster Energy drink, but the Ripple Fest Texas is going to be killer this summer. In Austin, Texas, it's at the Far Out Lounge, I believe. So that'll be a tour to get there and back, and that's what's on our plate.
Sweet, very good. Tanner, Madras, everything's fill us in. What's going on?
So as far as Madras goes, I'm working on a secret project within the camp. I'm going to be releasing a bunch of old stuff, retrospective stuff that I've been wanting to do, and now this is my opportunity to take advantage of that. I have a lot of stuff in the vault that I want out into the world and documented and preserved. so that it doesn't get lost in transit, as it were. But that's happening. Currently working on my physical therapy, so I can get back on stage and rage the fuck out of you guys, and obviously have some new material, hopefully this or next year. But I would like to get on the road again and possibly, I don't know, maybe do a couple shows with Void Vader if they're interested, or things like that. Maybe make it to Ohio and finally meet Chris in person, and especially Matt in person, and take advantage of those two aspects right there. But yeah, so those are the ultimate goals. So expect a fifth Madrasa album either this year or next.
Very cool.
And then
I'm
obviously
sure we can.
Poppet's Corner.
I'm sure we can expect 33 episodes about it on Poppet's Corner, right?
You know it. You know it.
Awesome. All right, guys. Well, it's been fun. And obviously, it's always great having you guys on. We'll definitely do it again in the future. And thanks again, guys. Good discussion.
Thanks for having us, man. Appreciate it.
See you guys.
Later.
When it's time to rock, it's time to tune in to Crash Course Radio. Featuring the very best of the heavier music, from Slayer to Clutch to Fear Factory, it's all in one place, Crash Course Radio. To tune in to Crash Course Radio, simply visit www.cmsradio.net. You can also tune in on the CMS Network app by opening the app, clicking the musical notes at the top right corner, and selecting Crash Course Radio from our stations. All the best heavy music is there, so you should be too. Ditch the commercial radio and make Crash Course Radio your everyday station.